All right, everyone, warm up those brains. It's time for the Get More Smarter podcast. We've been out and about the last couple of weeks, but we're back. We've joined like Voltron for episode 252. I'm Jason Bain.
I think it's formed like Voltron, and I'm Ian Silveri. This week on the Get More Smarter podcast, despite polling showing that Colorado voters have soured on Democrats, they have not sweetened up to Republicans. We explain why that probably is. Then, Colorado braces for a recession as prices keep rising everywhere. The job market looks like it's really starting to suck. And the nonpartisan economic staff in the state capitol starts predicting stormy skies ahead. And finally, we're officially back on shutdown watch as the shit show in Washington, D.C. sees no sign of stopping soon. And many have tried, none have succeeded. Could our guest today be the one to finally send Lauren Boebert to her eventual home on Newsmax or Fox News or whatever she's going after this? Rear Admiral Eileen Laubacher joins us to talk about her campaign for the 4th Congressional District, the weird meeting Pete Hegseth just called, and how she plans to do what no Democrat has done before.
Well, we kick things off with a bunch of bumbling and stumbling from Colorado Republicans of late. Chief among them is State Senator Barb Kirkmeyer, who is running for governor. The Denver Post editorial board said that she is the best candidate for governor the Republicans have had in a decade, which is not really a compliment. It's
Yeah, that's like a very relative compliment. I think it also might objectively be true, but it's not because necessarily of the high quality and caliber of Senator
Is she better than
Kirkmeyer.
Heidi Ganahl in 22? Sure.
Sure. Is she better than Walker Stapleton in 2018? One could argue.
Maybe.
I mean, he won a statewide race and she hasn't. He
Right.
never lost before running for treasurer. She lost to Yadira Caraveo in 2022. So, but she did serve in the Weld County Commission for like 20 years. And if she were running for governor of North Colorado, the state she tried to take away from our state, maybe she'd win that. But unfortunately, this is regular old whole Colorado, and I'm not sure it's going to work out.
We'll get to that in a minute. We recently played the clip of Kirkmeyer saying that she opposes abortion with no restrictions, including personhood.
And how she proudly banned Plan B from Weld County health clinics, which is not going to age well.
That statement alone probably makes it impossible for her to be elected governor. Not that she had a real chance anyway. But Barb is really doing a lot of self-harm lately as she also puts out videos trying to soften her image. So there's two recent problems. We'll start with her both ways Barb nickname that she continues to earn for some inexplicable reason. Here's what she said to Ernest Lunning of the Colorado Springs Gazette political website in terms of the H.R. 1, the big beautiful bullshit bill, and what it did or didn't do. Kirkmeyer said, quote, I did not have the opportunity to review that full bill. I don't know everything that's in that bill.
And Ernest Lunning, to his absolute endless credit, says, it was a very large bill. There was a lot in there.
Yes. This quote would have you believe that Kirkmeyer was really only paying, a little bit of attention to the big, beautiful bullshit bill, which is not what she said during the August special session, including this clip from day 2.
What's occurring is that the implementation costs more are shifting to the state, which the state is talking about trying to shift more of that off and put that burden onto local governments, onto counties, not all local governments, just counties. So again, this is kind of the information that keeps coming out that we keep hearing here from the Capitol, that HR 1's cutting benefits and HR 1's doing all these things, both in SNAP and in Medicaid. So I will just say this. First of all, with the Medicaid eligibility determinations, those have not been changed. Those were not changed in HR 1. So the amount of dollars, the 138% of the federal poverty level for people to be on Medicaid has not changed, and neither has that changed for SNAP. So the dollar amounts for the actual benefit, I don't believe has been cut. I don't know of anyone that has actually been kicked off of anything. So I would like to know exactly how much money was cut from SNAP benefits, not how much more money the state is going to have to pay to administer this, because that's what's changing.
Kind of sounds like she's pretty familiar with the bill.
You would think. I mean, she's wrong, but yes, people have not lost benefits yet because the Republicans specifically delayed those cuts from taking effect until 2027, but that doesn't mean they're not happening.
It's such a disingenuous sleight of hand, right? She's like, no one's being kicked off or cut from anything because specifically that has not happened yet. The laws that have been made and the funding that has been cut and the bills that have been voted on and signed will absolutely do those things. But because it hasn't happened yet, I'm going to stand around here going, well, what are you talking about?
This was not the worst comment that Kirkmeyer has done recently, however. She's really having trouble explaining the fact, as you mentioned earlier, that in, what was this, 2014, I think, she basically led a movement for Weld County and a handful of other counties in Colorado to secede from Colorado, which failed miserably. Here she is on the Ryan Schuling show on KHOW Radio.
And I would say this about the 51st state idea. I would do it again, quite frankly. I went out and listened to my constituents. And they said, there were some people who said, look, we think we should pursue this.
What?
Who said we shouldn't. And, we had people say, well, just survey. And I thought, well, the best survey is let's let people vote and decide, do you want us to proceed or not? Do you want us to look into this or not? And the folks said, no, we don't. I mean, the vote went the way where they just said, no, don't do that. We don't want to separate off and become the 51st state. And you know what? And I stopped. So I went out.
Oh, after you lost? Yeah, good.
You would do it again?
What a damning admission. Jesus
What an
Christ.
idiot.
I tried to break up the state. It didn't work. They told me no. I would do it again if given the chance. Why would this person be governor? Why would this person want to be governor?
First of all, that would never have worked anyway. Even if they had the voters approve it, you can't just make your own state. That doesn't work like that. There's a congressional process, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
But basically, she's saying, well, I just did what voters asked me to do, which is not what a leader does.
Also, you can't be a follower and a leader at the same time. Did you lead the succession insurrection, or did you just follow along with it? Which is it?
Well, and I think the way this ends up is, say some of your constituents wanted to run a ballot measure to bring back slavery. Would you just go, yeah, okay, let's try a vote.
for a vote. Yeah, see what happens.
Let's try it. Yeah.
No.
Would you speak out?
She was against free school meals. She voted no on referring that measure. So it's not like this universal principle applies that, oh, great question. Let's put it up for a vote. Every idea gets a vote. No. This is also just uniquely damaging for somebody who wants to run for governor, right?
Yeah.
What world is it in which one of the best things known about a person is that they try to break up the state they are trying to run, and then a majority of voters who haven't voted for a Republican since 2002 are going to get together and say, let's put that lady in charge.
Yeah. I want the lady who's running for governor of the state she didn't want to be in. Here she is a few weeks ago with Kyle Clark of 9 News trying a similar but slightly different response.
Last question. I know this is a topic that you love. I've asked you about this before. I think it's interesting. So in 2013, you helped lead that secession effort to have Northern Colorado break away and form a 51st state. And you're announcing your campaign at Fort Lupton, which was the campaign night headquarters for that effort in 2013.
That's right, it was. It was.
So
I almost forgot.
Here's my question. You said that you saw that effort as a success because it was intended to send a message as opposed to actually break away and form a new state. But why should Coloradans elect a governor who tried to lead a breakaway state?
Great question, Kyle.
Try to lead a breakaway state. I went out and talked. And by the way, it wasn't just me who said that. It was then Governor Hickenlooper who said that it was good and it was successful.
No.
Because then he started paying more attention to rural Colorado. But what I was leading is what I was hearing from my constituents. And I would do this again. They came to 7 regional meetings and they said, yeah, we think you should put it on the ballot. We want to figure out, is there a way for us to succeed from this state and create our own state because of this rural urban divide that was going on? And it was very real. And people did vote and they said no. And then we stopped. They said,
We're very glad you stopped after they said no.
Here's what you do. I was involved in that effort. It was a mistake. There was a rural-urban divide. People were very angry. I was hearing from constituents. They wanted to do something. I should have said, no, this is not the way to do it.
Hey,
Not,
that's pretty
I
good
would do it
comms,
again.
Jason. The advice is free for anybody who wants to take it.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
I guess she's doubling down.
Yeah, don't say, yeah, I'd do it again.
That's
That-
wild stuff.
Anything but that would be a good
Right,
answer.
That's wild stuff.
Well, the House Republicans at the state capitol have a new minority leader after previous minority leader Rose Puglisi abruptly resigned from the legislature in mid-September. House Republicans elected freshman Representative Jarvis Caldwell of Monument to replace Puglisi. He beat out Reps Ken DeGraff and Larry Don Suckla for the job. God, that would have been fantastic if either
We were
of them.
really disappointed that they went with the least freaky of the three freakies.
We'd have had a lot of audio for the next 2 years.
Right. The podcast would just kind of run itself at that point, I think.
Yes, it would. Nevertheless, Republicans are repeating past mistakes and giving top leadership roles to someone with little experience. If you remember, Puglisi became minority leader after just one session served in the state legislature. She proved to be a disaster.
Pretty bad.
Republicans turn around, elect Jarvis Caldwell, who was just elected to the House of Representatives last November.
Good news. He'll be able to serve as minority leader for 8 years.
What? That didn't work with Rose. Let's do it again. Caldwell talked at the House GOP meeting about wanting to turn down the temperature in the legislature, which ended the August special session with acrimonious debate over censuring former Representative Ryan Armagost. We've talked about that at length. We won't get too far into it. Then in Caldwell's first day on the job, he released this hostage video that is essentially the exact opposite of turning down the temperature. For those who can't see it, we have to understand that he's wearing Fidel Castro's shirt, basically.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate choice of outfit. It's somewhere between Fidel Castro and Baghdad Bob.
Yeah. Here's this video, and listen for the air conditioning hum in the background that really gives it that hostage video touch.
Hello, Colorado. This is Jarvis Caldwell. I'm here at the Capitol Monday morning, and one of my first acts as minority leader is going to be to sign a letter that House Republicans have also
Why
signed
would you
on
wear
to
that shirt? Your
address
first day.
to the Democrat leadership.
You have no other shirts?
Telling them that we need to hold everyone accountable. If you recall, during the special session, we passed a resolution saying that we're going to hold each other accountable and be better going forward. And unfortunately, in the wake of the tragic death of Charlie Kirk, some of the Democrat members have not been living up to those standards. And so if the Democrat majority is serious about holding everybody accountable, they need to start with their own members. So I'm going to sign this letter here, and then we're going to send it over to them.
This video
Fucking
is silly.
music. Hell yeah. Let's go. Oh, cool. Some B-roll. Got some action shots of the fucking
Pieces of
signature
paper.
page of the micro minority. Holy crap.
The thing they signed is basically like Democrats said some mean things about Charlie Kirk, and therefore they're not policing their own or something. Again, 48 hours earlier, this guy said, I'm going to try to take the temperature down.
And by that, I mean,
Yep.
crank it up.
So why is this important? Because one of the complaints from Democrats on the Armagost matter was that the photo of Representative Zokai that became popular on right-wing social media accounts such as Libs of TikTok. There has been a lot of speculation in and out of the building about who leaked the Zokai photo to Libs of TikTok. Remember, that photo was appeared first on an internal Republican channel, text channel, where they, called her a prostitute,
All sorts of
all kinds of things.
stuff. Yeah.
Caldwell's comments here kind of indicate that maybe he was that source.
This is interesting. It's like either there's like a well-sourced network of like micro-minority state lawmakers throughout the country who like tattletale to Libs of TikTok, or it's like definitely absolutely this guy who says he does it. Which is more likely?
Right. Right. So keep
Good Lord.
keep not turning down the temperature.
I think we
Jarvis
should
Caldwell.
refer to him as Jarvis Caldwell, our libs of TikTok from now on.
Yeah, that or Jarvis Castro Caldwell.
Amazing stuff.
That shirt, I'm never gonna. You can't live
It's
that
hard
down,
to
ever.
like think about someone stumbling out of the gate worse than this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Like you didn't have to do any of these things. Like it was just
No,
like
these were choices.
I'm gonna come out and throw a punch.
And
but
my
it'll be
first
a weak
action
punch.
as minority leader is to sign this strongly worded letter. Ah, very good.
Right.
Telling us to take the temperature down or I will take the temperature up.
Right.
This fucking makes no sense.
All right. As we continue in our examples of Republicans bumbling and stumbling, Jeff Crank, the freshman congressman from Colorado Springs, is being targeted in an effort to get him to be potentially the final signer on a discharge petition to vote on releasing the Epstein files. Apparently, Virginia Jeffrey's brother, who, remember Jeffrey committed suicide years ago, but she was outspoken about her time being brainwashed in the Epstein island and all that stuff. Her brother apparently lives in Colorado Springs and went down there to try to get Crank to sign the letter. I don't know if he found Crank. Again, as we've said before, nobody.
Jason is not
seems to see
necessarily convinced that Jeff Crank actually exists. which
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
think that's a conspiracy theory I can't support, but I wish you all the best in continuing that because it has still not been demonstrated to us that he is actually down there.
Anyway, here's CNN with Sky Roberts, Virginia Jeffrey's brother.
There is an intensifying effort by White House allies behind the scenes to pressure GOP lawmakers who have signed on to that petition to withdraw their name, to prevent a floor vote. And we are just learning this from our Hill team. Obviously, you know some of those Republicans. You met with them. Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, right? They have done this and bucked their own party. But we are learning about this intensifying effort going on right now to get Republicans to flip that vote. What do you say to this, Sky?
I'll address the first part is that we are excited that, that we do have, as of right now, the votes. I don't see as to why it has to take somebody getting sworn in for us to push this forward. Representative Crank has that opportunity right now. Yeah. In regards to the response to that, I would say, we had the opportunity to sit down with Representative Boebert's staffers. They were incredibly sensitive to the topic. They were very knowledgeable. We do feel confident that she will continue to back that. And quite frankly, I think we've said this all along, but this is not a party issue. This is a human issue. And I think we are very proud of Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, of Lauren Boebert, Massey, Nancy Mace. I think they're showing a lot of courage right now. And we ask that we flipped that script. I think we should ask more representatives to come forward and push this to a majority vote, not just a small majority, but a large majority, because if you don't, you are standing with pedophiles.
I wanted to show something I saw earlier today. This is from a poll on MSNBC. Should the Epstein files be released? MAGA Republicans, 82% yes. Independents, 86% yes. Republicans, 83% yes. Democrats, 90% yes. It is hard to think of a more unifying issue than releasing the Epstein files.
However, Jeff Crank is scared shitless of Donald Trump, and there's no way he's going to do anything that puts him at odds with the White House.
Do you think he's scared shitless of Donald Trump, or do you think he's there merely to serve Donald Trump?
Both could be true.
Fair enough. He is scared shitless, so he is there to serve Donald Trump and not his district, or the presumably 80 to 90% of people in his district who want the fucking Epstein files released.
And, the question will be at that point, are you going to vote for this?
I feel like we're going to see a lot of people taking a lot of walks in the park during that.
Everybody's going to be sick all of a sudden.
We all COVID exposure running through the Capitol. My God.
That's right.
Can't possibly show up to work today.
That's right. And finally, in this segment, Representative Jeff Hurd, the bread sandwich from the 3rd Congressional District,
otherwise known as Other Jeff.
Other Jeff has maneuvered himself into quite the corner after taking bad votes on the big, beautiful bullshit bill despite signing 2 different letters claiming he couldn't support any legislation that cut funding for Medicaid and rural hospitals. In a recent town hall event, a teletown hall, he stuck his foot further down his throat. I say teletown hall because Republicans in Colorado are terrified of doing them in person. No congressional Republican in this state has held a real town hall meeting at any point this year. Nor are they going to, if I had to guess. Anyway, here's a constituent of Hurd's calling him out for his rough vote on Medicaid.
Said we're fighting hard for the ACA tax premium tax credit to be extended. I guess, could you please explain what fighting hard means? Because I really don't understand how it did with Medicaid, where you said right things and then voted in a disappointing way.
Well, Fran, thanks for that. Thanks for your comments also about civility and discourse. I think those are well taken. A good point. When it comes to Medicaid specifically, you're right. The changes that are with respect to the work requirements, I believe they take effect in April 2027. I'm going from memory here. But the changes in the reduction, the 0.5% reduction in the provider fee reimbursement, that beginning, that first step of ramp down, I believe happens in fiscal year 2028. So that does give us time to address that underlying issue when it comes to Medicaid and preserving and protecting Medicaid.
Oh, yeah? Yeah? What's going to help the underlying issue? Putting fucking Democrats back in the goddamn majority so they can undo this bullshit you voted for? What are you talking about?
The underlying issue is that you voted twice to cut Medicaid.
Insane stuff. Absolutely
Now you're
wild.
like, oh, we can fix it.
Who will stop Jeff Hurd's Medicaid vote? Could it be Jeff Hurd?
Maybe don't break it first.
Good Lord.
And then here he is a little bit at a different moment, just lying about the fact that the big, beautiful bullshit bill creates no taxes on Social Security.
Hey, I just wanted to ask you, I just turned 64 years old, and I've been waiting, I'm luckier than most. I was fortunate enough, I own my home. I'm just a middle-class guy. I'm very worried about the big, beautiful bill. We're starting to apply for Medicare, and it seems to be more expensive than the Obamacare I'm on now. And I'm also wondering, I wish that people would stand more up to our federal government in our Congress and Senate. I just watched an American Experience show, and I'm not trying to get about the Richard Nixon days. I wish you guys would get a little bit more stronger on some of the stuff that, I'm watching the news right now. I don't agree with talk show hosts getting nailed by the federal government. I'm not going to name any names. Basically, though, I'm asking you about the healthcare, rural healthcare on the big, beautiful bill.
Well, thanks, Patrick. I appreciate that. So a couple topics. I think you started off with Social Security and Medicare, if I remember right. I think you're 64, about ready to turn 65. Let me tell you first, with the One Big Beautiful Bill, there's been a lot of noise about that bill, but one of the facts that I would point out is that for a middle-class guy like you, I believe you said that you're middle class, there is a very substantial tax cut that you are entitled to when you are receiving Social Security. So basically, if you're a middle-income individual receiving Social Security, you don't have to pay taxes on that Social Security. Now, if you're wealthier, if you're rich, if you're earning more money and you're also getting Social Security, then you may have to continue to pay the taxes you did.
God, I'd hope so.
Middle class, if you're trying to make ends meet, if you don't have a lot of money, that is a huge tax cut that we just passed in One Big Beautiful Bill that's going to help people exactly like you.
Okay. Here's the deal. Currently, about 64% of seniors already don't pay taxes on Social Security benefits.
This is like an economic means tested sort of thing.
Yeah. The big, beautiful bullshit bill created a $6,000 tax deduction for some people age 65 and older, which raises the number of seniors who won't pay taxes on Social Security to about 88%. But it's not a direct thing. They didn't end taxes on Social Security.
Right. The promise was no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Securities, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on car loan interest. And all of those things are true.
With a huge
if
asterisk.
By no, you mean some or quite a lot, depending on who you are.
Right.
Which is not the same as no.
All right, so let's try a new segment we're going to call Which is Worser.
Oh, I
We're
love a
going to
new
go
segment.
through these couple of examples we just played, and we're going to give each one sort of a grade. There are 3 levels. The first one we'll call dope for Homer Simpson. 1, 2, 3, dope! This is something that it's a dumb mistake. There's no mistake in any of these because we wouldn't have played them. This is just a dumb mistake if it's dope. The next level is this. Ruh-roh. Something that could have a lasting impact. And the final rating is this.
They taste like burning.
This one means it's officially a problem, what you just did or said. So let's go in reverse order here. The Jeff Hurd teletown hall you just heard, where would you rank that?
I put that in a rut row.
Okay.
Quite frankly, it's like probably not going to end his political career, and it's not super minor, so somewhere in the middle. What about you?
I would put it in the same place because it's Hurd is continuing to not find a way out of the hole he dug by claiming over and over that he wouldn't vote for Medicaid cuts and then voting for Medicaid cuts. This kind of thing just keeps breathing life into it.
Yeah, for sure.
How about the Jeff Crank Epstein files? Where would you put that on the list?
I'll put that in a tastes like burning. I mean,
Oh,
it's
really?
yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Listen, so a couple things, right? Like we know that like the deep MAGA tinfoil hat folks are like obsessed with Epstein files. So like if 10% of them find out that like Jeff Crank wouldn't talk to Virginia Guffrey's brother and sign the discharge petition to release the files, like they won't vote for him. Like that there are people for whom this is like a bright line, right? Second, he just got really unlucky that he ended up with one of her relatives in his district
Yes.
in a state where Lauren Boebert has been like trying to position herself as a champion for releasing these things. Now, we know she took a walk on voting to release them, the one chance she got, of course, but there's going to be more opportunities for her to sign the discharge petition. Her brother says that she's taken the meetings and her staff is listening, so he's at odds with her there. And I just think that because of friend of the show, Jessica Killen, running such an excellent campaign and being such an excellent candidate, all of those combined to like, this might actually rise the level of a Jeff Crank existential threat. You were surprised by me putting it in the taste like burning category. Where do you land?
Yeah, to me it's more of a dope, but potentially a taste like burning. It depends on how he ultimately votes if there's a discharge petition. If he votes no on the discharge petition, then he's got double no, and then this is a real problem.
I mean, we know Trump and his like allies are running around trying to get Republicans to vote no or take their name off the petition or whatever like that. And Johnson is just in like terrible situation with this whole thing to begin with. So
yeah,
I think that Crank is probably a very loyal Trump foot soldier. He will probably do what he is told, and that will hurt him in the long run. I think worse than maybe either, but we'll see.
Yeah. What about Jarvis Caldwell and his libs of TikTok nonsense?
I put this in the dough category more than anything because, like, it is definitely a stumble at the gate for a new minority leader. But, like, it's hard to think of a worse job in Colorado politics than House Minority Leader, which he already has.
Brutal.
And it's hard to think of a way in which they could lose more power than they already have, although they may end up back in a literal super minority after this election cycle because of Trump backlash. So, like, I don't think this is existentially threatening to Jarvis Caldwell because I think they're already in basically the worst possible situation they can be in. What do you think?
Yeah, the bar is remarkably low.
Yeah,
I'm going to put this more in the rut row category, and not because of what he said specifically, but because he chose to kick off his tenure as minority leader with an aggressively attacking maneuver for no reason. I think it's going to be hard for him to be able to have any sort of dialogue with Democrats after just displaying that he's not going to be any different than any of the other Republicans.
And Democrats do not need a single Republican to do a single thing in the building. So there's no incentive now for them to work with him. That's a good point.
No. What about both ways Bob Both ways, Bob. I keep doing that.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough year.
Both ways, Bob endorsed her.
Yeah, sure. So it's thrice ways, Bob's.
Both ways, Barb Kirkmeyer. What about her statements that she didn't see the HR 1, the big, beautiful bullshit bill, despite the fact that she clearly seems to know a lot about it?
Yeah, I think this is more Doe territory because, again, she's not going to be governor. This did not torpedo her campaign. Her running as a losing already Republican in a state like Colorado torpedoed her campaign. So, I don't think there's going to be anything worse that can happen to her other than, putting her name in, probably losing the primary to a lunatic who will probably lose the general to Michael Bennet or Phil Weiser.
I agree. I put this as a Doe because it's not the dumbest thing she said herself in recent weeks. But it is dumb to pretend that you don't know about something that you spent the last month talking about.
Right, fair enough.
Which leads us to Kirkmeyer on secession. I imagine we're in the same place here.
It doesn't follow my previous logic, but this does taste like burning for me.
Yes.
It's like you can't be the governor of the state you try to destroy. Sorry.
No, it makes no sense.
Disqualifying. Yeah, bye. Yeah.
No.
She took 2 whacks at the apple and had the same bad message, and that shows that she's not going to figure out.
Don't I do it again? No, no. Don't say that.
Bad news. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our guest today, retired Rear Admiral Eileen Laubacher, who is a national security leader, a mom of 5, and a lifelong public servant with deep roots in Colorado. She spent decades in military and diplomatic service, including deploying to Afghanistan. Across every chapter of her career, Eileen has been known for her calm, principled leadership, her ability to build coalitions, solve problems, and get things done. Now she's running to flip Colorado's 4th congressional district because she believes Congress needs more leaders grounded in service, accountability, and constitutional duty, and dare we say, reality. Eileen Laubacher, welcome to the Get More Smarter podcast.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's great to meet you. We've heard so many good things about you, and we're excited to have this conversation. So let's start with your story. What brought you to Colorado, and what are you doing? You're not campaigning.
Yeah, great. So we moved to Colorado back in 1998. So let me back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm in addition to having served in the Navy for 34 years, active and reserve. My dad also was in the Navy for 37 years, and so I grew up all over the country and all over the world, and never had a hometown, which was a little sad, particularly when I was at the Naval Academy. When you're a senior, you put on your bio like hometown, whatever, and it was like a source of tremendous angst for me that I did not have a hometown. I was like, I don't know what to put here. And so when I left the Navy in 1998 and my husband and I were deciding where we were going to move, I told him there are good things and bad things about marrying me. So one good thing is that I can live anywhere. The bad thing is maybe only for 3 years, and then I'll be like, time to go, and move on. So we moved to Colorado. I'd never been here before. And we just fell in love with Colorado for all its beauty, but really fell in love with Coloradans. And we had our 5 kids here. When my dad finally retired from the Navy, my sister is in Denver. We convinced my parents to move out here too. And so really the whole family has been out here, which is just lovely. And really, the beauty of Coloradans was never made more clear to me than when I deployed to Afghanistan, which you mentioned. And during that year, so my kids were 10, 8, 6, 4, and 1 when I left my husband for a year with them. Chris, who's very funny, likes to say that year was harder for me emotionally and harder for him in every other way. He's very funny, which is kind of fair. But I was at war. I was not
Right.
on an extended spa vacation or something like that. But we, our neighbors they made meals for my family multiple times a week. They sent me care packages. They took my kids to sports activities. When one of my children, who shall remain nameless, fell down window wells more than one time and needed stitches, they would watch the other kids so my husband could take that one to the hospital. It was a long year for Chris. And when I came home, they sent a Hummer limousine to the airport and for us to ride home in, and lined the streets of our
Oh,
neighborhood with signs welcoming me home and thanking me and Chris for our service.
oh, how
Um,
nice.
and I just never felt like I could, you know, pay Colorado and Coloradans back for that. And then, um,
Remind us real quick, what area of Colorado do you live in?
so right now we live in Highlands Ranch. This is
Okay.
our new Highlands Ranch home. Our youngest just graduated from high school, and we sent him off to college. And so Chris and I have moved into this place, which is awesome. And we're very happy here.
So
So
where were
far.
you before then when this was happening?
Littleton, when
Okay.
Oh, very cool.
Ken
Yeah.
Carroll. So yeah, my parents live up the street from us at our old house, and it was just a great place for the kids to be able to see their grandparents all the time, and it
Sure.
was pretty wonderful. Um,
Uh,
and so when I retired in October of last year, I was looking forward to spending time with the 5 kids. I've got 3 grandchildren and my beloved husband. But then in January and February and March, the world just changed a lot. And I was watching sort of the destruction of all of these institutions that I have given my whole life for. And I just really felt that I needed to do something to kind of step up and find a way to once more serve my country. And I felt that doing this, running against Lauren Boebert, defeating Lauren Boebert and getting her out of Congress was something that I could do um, for Colorado and for my Colorado friends and neighbors who deserve better representation than Lauren Boebert. So
For our listeners who are unfamiliar with military ranks, which would probably include Ian and I, what is a rear admiral? Is it better than a front admiral or a left admiral? Or what?
So I retired as a rear admiral upper half. So in the Navy, we have 2 versions of rear admirals. First, you're a 1-star rear admiral, and then some of us are fortunate enough to become a 2-star rear
Okay.
admiral. And that is what I retired as. There's a vice admiral ahead of that, and a full admiral who's a 4-star. And yeah, so I'm a retired 2-star.
What is rear admiral? What does that mean? Do you know why it's called that?
Why the name?
Yeah.
I don't know. We used to
It's
not
just what
have
they
rear
do, huh?
admiral lower half and rear admiral upper half. The Navy didn't want to have. We just wanted to go straight to 2 stars historically. We had a rank called Commodore, which is what a 1-star admiral was. But really, Commodore was a position. It was when you were in charge of a large enough fleet or strike group, you became a Commodore. And so the Navy just wanted to make people Commodores, and the Army and the Air Force were having none of that. And so we have rear admiral lower half and rear admiral upper half.
And now I know more about military ranks than I ever thought I would. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So you're running as a Democrat in Colorado's most Republican district.
Yes.
Did anyone try and talk you out of this? And what did you say to them if they did?
Well, no, I mean, I talk to friends and people that I know who know more about politics than I ever will, I think. And I'm just not a politician. I've never really thought of myself as clearly fitting into one party or the other. I used to be registered as a Republican when I moved here back in '98. In order to vote in primaries, you had to be in a party. It's not like now where you can be unaffiliated and vote in a primary. I really liked John McCain. I love John McCain. He was a fellow Naval Academy graduate and a war hero. And like all of us, a complex and flawed individual, but someone I think that really put his country first. Someone who was an iconoclast, also didn't necessarily fit into the mold of parties, and did a whole lot of really impressive bipartisan legislation. And so when he was running against George W. Bush back in 2000, I really wanted him to be the candidate. And so that was why I registered as a Republican. And since that time, I've been quite busy having said 5 children, and also then in the Navy. And in the military, we just think of ourselves as nonpartisan. We don't identify ourselves as like one party or the other. So regardless of the challenges that the district brings, I believe that this race is very winnable as a Democrat. I certainly, for me, for someone of my background, I think as a veteran, as someone who has spent my career serving my country, as someone who who has worked hard to work for America with people who don't necessarily agree with one another. Have done a lot in the diplomacy sphere, working with countries working with people both in Afghanistan and India. And then when I was at the White House in my last tour in the Navy, in South Asia more broadly, finding ways to partner with people who have different and sometimes competing interests. And I believe all of that's going to be important and, need to be brought to bear once I win this race and I go to Congress.
We used to ask every guest, and we got out of this business, and we should get back into it. Why are you a Democrat?
So I think I'm a Democrat for a number of reasons. So first of all, I believe strongly in a woman's right to decide what to do with her body. I think women need to have the right to abortion, to birth control, and frankly, the whole gamut of family planning. And I think that all of those decisions do not belong with the federal government. And those are decisions that belong squarely with a woman, her family, and her doctor. And I think we need to get back to that. But I also believe strongly in the idea of doing good things for people, and the idea that the government needs to deliver for the people who, frankly, pay for it. I think, we Coloradans are people who are proud and are not looking for handouts. But that is not the purpose of what the government is supposed to do for us. We pay the government taxes so that they can provide us services. And I think that we need to do a better job of being fiscally responsible about the services that we want the government to provide, but also of demanding that the government actually deliver on its promises and do right for people. And I think that the Democratic Party has the potential to do all of those things. I do, however, believe strongly and that there needs to be a lot of reform of our government. I've always been someone who considered myself very fiscally conservative with regard to the government. And I think we can also see that the Republican Party has walked away from any perception of fiscal responsibility with that most recent budget bill, which is probably the least fiscally responsible budget bill in the last 250 years, certainly in my lifetime. The idea that the huge transfer of wealth from working families to the super wealthy is insane. And also at the same time, adding $4.1 trillion, I believe is the last count, to the national debt. That's just, it's shocking. It's really shocking. And it is not acceptable. Like I said, 5 kids, 3 grandkids. I don't want those children to be shouldering this kind of irresponsibility, and we need to figure out ways to do better.
Before we ask you more about your campaign, we did want to ask you about your thoughts on something in the news lately. This meeting that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has called for 800 military generals and admirals to come to a base in Virginia next week for reasons he has not disclosed. How weird is this? Is it that unusual?
Oh, it's super weird. I've never heard of anything like this in my entire life. First of all, it's inefficient, right? I mean, this is crazy. The idea of bringing people from flag and general officers from all across the globe into one location, that's extremely expensive. In addition, we have excellent secure communications abilities.
Oh, like Signal group chats? Should they be
right. Signal, as we all know, Signal is exactly the place that you really want to have all classified conversations on. But if you decide Signal isn't for you, there are approved secure communications methods that are available everywhere to all flag and general officers to be able to communicate in a way without taking leadership away from our major commands. This is if we are really talking about him bringing every flag and general officer to Virginia, that means that our major commands, our combatant commands, are going to have 06s left in charge. Not to say those aren't highly capable people, but there's a reason that we pay admirals and generals to be in charge of places. And this is just nothing short of madness, in my opinion. I don't know what the reasoning could possibly be that you needed to do these things in person. but it seems unwise on like every level.
If you were still active, is this something you would have been expected to attend?
I would imagine so, because they didn't say anything that it didn't belong, that reserve and guard admirals weren't to come as well. So I was, as you know, I was served both active and reserve. While the last 5.5 years were all on active duty. Even as a reserve admiral, this would mean that you also would have to make your way to Virginia. I mean, this is an extremely expensive proposition.
Yeah.
And we're talking about combatant commanders that are, many of whom are at sea.
Right.
And I don't even, I don't know. This is just,
Isn't it extremely unwise, if nothing else, to put the entirety of the military leadership in just one geographical physical location at a time? Like, that's what I keep thinking. Like, this just seems like risky.
Yeah. Seems like the beginning of a real bad movie. So, I think that, yes, it seems like, again, it seems inefficient. It seems like unwise, and it seems very risky to be doing this. And it's just illogical. Like, I mean, if you're talking about a government that says they're looking at ways to cut inefficiencies, and which, I mean, of course, is not what we have actually seen. But if you're looking for smart ways to do it, dragging people halfway around the world in order to be able to have a conversation that you could have anywhere, maybe including Signal, does not make sense. Doesn't really compute to me.
We don't get to speak to a lot of or any like military leadership, so we figured you were the only chance we got to get some clarity on this. And unfortunately, I think we are exactly where we were when we started. So, all right, let's talk about your campaign. So you're running against a person who we used to call our 8th favorite member of Congress from Colorado, and we're struggling with whether or not that's still true because of Gabe Evans, but do it for us. Make us the case. What's the case against Lauren Boebert?
The case against Lauren Boebert. Okay, so let's step aside from all of her personal behaviors, right?
Sure.
And let's just put those on the shelf, and let's just talk about the things that she votes for and against. Let's talk about the damage that she does to Coloradans. So she gleefully voted for took multiple selfies of herself as she went to go vote on the budget bill, which is incredibly harmful to Coloradans. I mean, not only is it going to gut Medicaid, right? Not only is it going to make healthcare unaffordable for something like 225,000 Coloradans, but it is also taking money directly out of the pockets of Coloradans in order to transfer to the wealthy, like we talked about before. She's also voted twice to protect Trump's tariffs, which we know are going to hurt all families, right? Working families, small business owners, farmers, you name it. Everyone.
We know it's happening already. Yeah.
Pardon me?
It's happening already.
I know. And the pain that people are feeling is unbelievable. I mean, I go out to rural parts of Colorado and people are just struggling. I mean, they were struggling before, but now she has made it so much worse. She has also voted against so many different veterans measures. She has done things that are just illogical and nothing short of shocking. She was one of very few members who voted against providing health care for veterans who had been exposed to toxic burn pits.
This is the PACT Act, right?
I'm on the burn pit registry.
Really?
And she voted against that. She was one of 9 members of Congress who voted against providing maternal health care to female veterans. She voted against helping out veterans who had been returning their benefits to them by veterans who had been defrauded by for-profit colleges. She voted against she opposed a bipartisan bill called the Dignity for Military Trauma Survivors Act. She voted to gut the VA. She has voted in so many ways against veterans, and this district is 43% veteran households. So
is that true?
It is, and so that is also crazy. And I think as a veteran and as someone who who believes in the idea that those people who serve our country, who are willing to lay down their lives for our country, we have an obligation to them that she has said that she does not care about. She's also taken $75,000 from drug and insurance companies, right? And so she is working to put their profits against of lower costs for Coloradans. So Lauren Boebert has done so much to damage Coloradans and without taking her job or her responsibilities seriously. She's not a serious person. She's not thinking about herself as a public servant. She's doing this all for the likes and for the popularity. And that is not what Coloradans deserve. When I worked at the White House, people would say to me, "Oh, Eileen, where are you from?" And I'd say Colorado, and people would say, "Lauren Boebert." And I'm like, no.
Damn it.
Yeah. It's very blue. It's a lovely place. It's a lovely place to live. Be good people, good people. We deserve to have someone in Congress who takes the job seriously, who wants to deliver for Coloradans, who wants to do what's right, who looks at their job as being a servant leader, right? As a public servant for the people. And she is clearly not that person. So while yes, Gabe Evans, not awesome. Even less awesome. That is, I do believe that this is a year where we're going to have the opportunity to turn over a bunch of these seats, not just Gabe Evans, not just Lauren Boebert, but I think we're looking at turning over the Jeffs too. I think we have potential
The
here.
Jeffs,
Yeah, the Jeffs.
Yeah, we might not even have to do any kind of mid-cycle redistricting. We could just kick them all out in the midterms, right?
Yeah. Let's just have a sweep. Let's make Colorado as big and blue and beautiful as it can possibly be.
I noticed you answered that question by talking about Boebert's record and specifically not talking about all her personal issues. Is that the way you think is best to talk about Boebert with voters who may have supported her before?
Yes, I think so. I mean, people voted for her knowing that she pulled all those shenanigans, right? I mean,
Right.
I think for good or for bad, our people's expectations of members of Congress is not as high as it once was.
Yeah.
I think that's the nicest way I could possibly say that. And I think that the idea that, all politicians are corrupt and that, all politicians do
Right.
bad things, is undeserved, but for the most part, but also is not helpful. And part of the problem is that we need to have serious people running, serious people who want to accomplish serious things, who want the government to deliver for them. And so I think focusing on those things about her that maybe, people are embarrassed by, that kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I do think that it's important to understand that Lauren Boebert is very unpopular. She lagged Trump in the last election by 7 points.
Right.
She has never been that popular. And we have had an opportunity to get rid of her before when she was running against Adam Frisch. And, the margin was paper thin, 546 votes. And we need people to realize that she is vulnerable. She is vulnerable. And this is the election, and I believe that I am the candidate. I think I am the kind of person that people who may never have felt comfortable checking a box that has a D next to it could be comfortable with me.
Well, that's a great transition to my next question, actually. So
great.
It's almost like we're working off the same script here. CD4 is deeply Republican, as you know. It's the most Republican district in the state, right? So what's your theory of the case for how a Democrat can win here? Are you trying to flip Republicans, mobilize Democrats, win over independents? What's the strategy that's going to actually get you to 50% +1 or a plurality if there's more than just the two of you in there if you're the Democratic nominee?
Great question, Ian. So I think it's a yes and answer, right? right? So yes, I need to mobilize Democrats, right? We need Democrats to come out and to realize that in this moment, we've all got to show up. We've all got to show up. If we're serious about this, and if we're serious about wanting change and wanting something different, this is the time. We cannot just sit by and complain because like our favorite person didn't get past the primary or whatever. This is a time where we've all got to be mission focused, right? There is a clear mission here, and we need to remain laser focused on that idea. Yes, with regards to those who are, independents or unaffiliated, yes, I think I have an opportunity and a unique way to draw people in as someone who, like I said, is a veteran, as someone who, but also a regular Coloradan, right? A regular Coloradan with a mortgage and car loans and some credit card debt. I'm just a regular person, not someone who's, I used to say not a politician, and then people have pointed out to me, you're kind of now a
You are
politician.
now. Yeah.
I know. I never thought of myself
That's a case that we make as well. Once you put
It's
your
a
name
pet
on the
peeve of
ballot,
ours, yeah.
that is over. Yeah.
exactly 100%, super uncomfortable. But I think the other thing to keep in mind is that Democrats who are veterans have the studies have been done that they get a 4-point swing. So if it's an R+9 district, 4-point swing, now we're at R+5, right? That's winnable. This is going to be hard, but this is in this year when there's no president on the ballot that's going to potentially pull some people in. I think this is winnable. And I think I think at heart also people are still reasonably upset about the cost of living in the economy.
Sure. Yeah.
Things are unaffordable and they are about to get worse. I mean, we are seeing prices creeping in the wrong direction. Promises were made about what was going to happen on day one, and those promises have not been kept, and people are feeling it. I was just out at a rural hospital down in Springfield, Colorado, and I was talking about listening to the people telling me about the healthcare that they deliver and how hard it is for them to make that happen, and the fact that they spend a quarter of the hospital's budget on uninsured patients, right? Because they're like, we're gonna still take care of our friends and neighbors. Well, now with the cost that we're gonna see for insurance, not to mention the people being kicked off Medicaid, I mean, more people are gonna just choose that or believe that they cannot afford health insurance, and that's gonna put even more strain on rural hospitals and more strain on us all as individuals. So I think that in this moment, this seat is winnable, and that I am the person to do it. But I've also talked about the fact that I firmly believe that this is a time for us all to come together. I think that I'm going to come out on top of the primary, and that's going to be great. But if for some reason I don't, I will absolutely commit to putting all my weight behind whoever wins this primary. Because again, I think of it like a military mission, right? When you're figuring out who's going to take care of a mission in the military, you look at your whole team and determine who's the right person to do this. And then once that decision is made, you put the weight of everything behind that team, that group, that individual to accomplish the mission. And that is what we have to do. We cannot allow ourselves at this time to be divided. We have to understand the import of what is going on in our country right now. And we have to understand that in order to be able to accomplish things as the Democratic Party, we have to be the party in power. And so this is our opportunity to make change and to get things done.
You've done a pretty good job already in raising money. What is your fundraising strategy in a district that is so heavily Republican when people have been asked before to donate against Boebert and it hasn't turned out? How do you convince them to give it a shot again?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm most proud of is, we're doing well on the fundraising front right now. We had a great first quarter. We're about to announce a really great second quarter. I'm proud of the fact that the average donation to the campaign is hovering right around $20. This is very much grassroots funded. which is great because as mentioned before, I'm not independently wealthy. There's no way that I can finance this campaign. So I believe that, and I believe that the reason that people are investing in this campaign is because they also believe. They believe that this is the time that it can be done. And it's really important that people do that people find a way to scrape together $50 and put it towards campaigns in this moment because we have to win. So I think that my main message is that this campaign is winnable, but it is going to be expensive. It's a huge district, 32,000 square miles, the size of South Carolina, I found out.
Wow.
Which is and winning is going to mean a significant amount of time on the ground. It's going to mean an enormous amount of time for me getting out there, talking, yes, but really listening, really hearing the struggles that people are having, really understanding what it is that they want out of their government, really making connections about what government can do for them and what it ought to be doing for them and what it is not currently doing for them, and figuring out a way to hear people. And that costs money. And so in order to be out there, we need to have resources to do that. But I do believe that this campaign has struck a chord within people in Colorado, and we can get this done.
One of the issues that we've been concerned about on this show recently is a lot of the scam pack fundraising going on around the country. It particularly happens when there's a recognizable name to raise money against, like a Lauren Boebert. How do you make sure you don't get caught in one of those churn and burn fundraising campaigns where you raise a lot of money, but 80% of it just goes right back into the pocket of whoever raised it?
Yeah, it's hard, right? I mean, I think what you have to do is you have to pick the right team. So I have made sure that the team that I have that I'm working with understands the end goals, and we are all laser focused on what the point of this is. And so we're working very hard to be fiscally responsible and making sure that we are going to have the cash on hand needed to do
Right.
the advertising that's going to be necessary, right? Needing to make sure that we can do the mail stuff that's going to be necessary. We have a budget and a plan. I'm military, so I've got plans on plans, right? We're all about short, medium, long-term strategy. And I think that you're so right. I mean, that kind of thing is really problematic. It's also important to me. We're not taking money from corporate PACs, right? I don't like that version. We need major campaign finance reform in this country. And I do not like that. And so we're working hard to make sure that we're raising the money responsibly. We're going to be using the money responsibly, and we're going to do it so that we can get to the end result, get to that mission completion of getting Lauren Boebert out of office.
Before you can take on Boebert, though, you've got to get through a few other Democrats, including Tricia Calvarese, who took on Boebert in 2024, and John Fedora, who's also run before. So what's your argument to Democratic primary voters in your district that you're the one that can pull it off this time?
Yeah, I think that my argument is simply this. I believe that that we need someone with the experience and the leadership and the appeal to reach across. It is not enough, as you pointed out before, it is not enough to get every single Democrat in this district to vote for me. You have to be able to encourage people who have never voted for a Democrat before that this is the time and this is the moment. And I believe that with my background, with my experience, with my ability to work across party lines, and as someone who is not your typical Democrat, does not necessarily agree with the Democratic Party on everything, has things that, opinions and positions that are going to appeal more to independent and Republican voters. And I think that is going to make the difference in this race. My opponents in the primary are really good people. And any one of us would be a better congressperson than Lauren Boebert. that is a very low bar. But I believe that I am not only the best solution for the district, but also the person who can draw those other voters and can convince them that this is the year to make a decision and make that decision and vote for a Democrat, because I am the person that they want to be in office for years to come.
Are there any examples of Democrats who have won in similar makeup districts that you're looking at? Maybe from folks who win in Trump districts like Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez in Washington or Jared Golden in Maine. Is there a North Star, so to speak, for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a number of them. The ones that you raise are really good. I'm also a huge fan of Abigail Spanberger. I mean, I think, she, while her district was, I think, R+6, the Republican who had won before her had won by 15 points. And she's the same kind of person, right? So she's a strong person who has spent her life in public service, who puts country before self, who was also doing something that she thought she would never do before. I mean, this is all incredibly uncomfortable. I was an intelligence officer in the Navy, and the idea of spending much time talking about myself is just frankly horrifying to me.
Right.
And I, in fact, when I told my husband that I wanted to do this, and I said to him, I realized that people have said to me before, you should run for office. And I said, oh, I would never do that. And I said to him, I was realizing, sweetheart, that every time I say I'm never going to do something, I end up doing that thing. And he said, yeah, I have also been thinking about that, babe. And I would like you to say, you're never going to win the lottery.
Yes.
And I'm like, that is
You'll never win this race.
Not
Yes.
the same thing. Definitely not the same thing. But he's like, but could you say it? I'm like, yes. So I'm never going to win the lottery. I'm saying it to you guys on the
Nice.
On the
podcast.
record,
It's all
yep.
around the
All right.
world now. I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can do this, right? This can be done. I believe in Coloradans. I believe in the people of Congressional District 4. I believe that they are hardworking, resourceful, intelligent, committed people who want a better future for themselves, for their kids, for their families, for their neighbors, for their friends. And they know that they need better leadership in order to do that. And I am that leader.
Well, Eileen Laubacher, thank you so much for coming on the Get More Smarter podcast today. Where can people learn more, follow you on social media, get involved in the campaign?
Yeah, I think I'm on all of the things. And I think if you start with eileenforcolorado.com, that's a good starting location. But I think it's pretty much, I'm on, whatever, Twitter, X. I'm on all of the things.
All of the
social
things. Go and
That's
find.
Yeah,
EILEEN.
that I said I would never be on. And
Right.
here we are. Here we
Right.
are. Yeah.
A lot of nevers that have become actuals, a lot of things that you thought you'd never do that you're doing.
That's
We
right.
are grateful for your service. We are grateful for your run for Congress. We wish you the best if you win the primary. We really hope we can get you back on the show. Eileen Laubacher, CD4, Democrat for Congress. Thank you so much for coming on the Get More Smart podcast. Go fight, win. Good luck out there.
Thank you so much. Lovely spending time with you.
All right, let's come back here with our FAFO, our fuck around and find out of the week. Turns out rural health clinics are closing.
And this is before the actual cuts come into play. These are anticipatory closings, right?
Yes. As CNN reports, exactly 2 months after President Donald Trump signed his policy mega bill in a July 4th celebration at the White House, a Virginia healthcare company blamed the law for the closure of 3 rural clinics serving communities along the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Now that is a taste like bread.
Yes, it is. The closures, Augusta Medical Group said in its statement, were part of the company's, quote, ongoing response to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and the resulting realities for healthcare delivery, unquote. No mincing words there.
Here's another bit of color from the article. Rural health providers say they rely on Medicaid funding, were already under strain before the bill cut federal health spending by hundreds of billions of dollars over the next decade. Now Democrats are linking that crisis to Trump and Republicans in election year, this year and the next. And I'm sorry, this is going to put me outside of the community of like good bipartisan people or whatever. But it's probably time for people to face the consequences of their actions. It's probably time for Republican voters to understand what they did by voting for Donald Trump, by voting for congressional Republicans, and by letting them do this. They are going to get massively hurt by this. Not just the ones who are on Medicaid and Medicare, of course, but the people whose entire systems are undergirded by massive federal healthcare spending, which is now evaporating, leading to things like this. And this is just the beginning. This totally sucks. It's going to take a long time to undo this damage, but you get what you vote for. And I'm sorry, but like these consequences are going to be real for people across the country.
And remember, Congressman Gabe Evans, among others, called this messaging from Democrats that rural health clinics would close. He called it fear-mongering.
Which is fucking insane, because the second one closes, and we already have 3 in Virginia, you've already had the lie put to that statement. So it's not fear-mongering, it is actual reality. Gabe-ish, good job.
So healthcare funding, including premium discounts for Obamacare, which if not renewed will possibly double healthcare costs in 2026, are a big part of the discussion on the government shutdown fight, which seems like it's going to happen at the end of the month.
Can we just like talk about this for a second? Like, I don't know if Democrats have many better options, but like the way they're positioning themselves for this fight, which is like either you restore the Obamacare premium subsidies or else we'll shut the government down, doesn't feel like the strongest hand to play. I mean, do you disagree?
It depends on the way you phrase it. I think if you say, unless you do something, agree with us on preventing people's healthcare costs from doubling next year, we're not supporting the budget.
That is better. And I think like what you say is like they were so hell-bent on doubling your healthcare costs that they let the government shut down. Like there's the other way to spin the narrative,
and Republicans are saying, oh, Democrats are going to own this. They're not.
They're
that's
not.
Stupid.
The polling shows that they're going to own it. And like the other thing is like shutdown fights tend to actually benefit the out party. So you like we've seen this in history before. Everybody knows this is Donald Trump's America. Everybody knows Republicans are in charge of the entire government. You cannot lay this at the feet of Democrats unless Democrats find a way to like step on their own message, which like, let's face it, can't rule it out.
Right. But I think the reason they don't bend this time is because of what Chuck Schumer did in the spring in the debate over raising the debt ceiling. Democrats got no concessions out of that. And I think, constituents of Schumer would bring out the pitchforks if he didn't hold the line here.
No more caving, no more blinking. You have plenty of things to say about why funding this government would be a moral abomination.
And it sucks that the White House is saying they're going to lay people off if this happens, but you can't give in to those kind of threats.
No, and like Democrats actually have leverage to actually prevent shutdowns and terrible externalities and terrible things from being done to their own constituents. They need to use that leverage.
Yep. This also comes as Colorado and the rest of the country, and actually maybe the rest of the world, are bracing for a Trump session.
A totally unnecessary, self-inflicted one that is coming just from the White House. By the fucking way, all he had to do was get in there and not do this shit, and then he went in there and did this shit, and now we're going to pay for it.
The Colorado nonpartisan legislative staff issued an outlook recently about the economy. As the Denver Post says, quote, Colorado state government faces a continuing dim fiscal picture heading into next year as a slowing economy, rising costs, and the rollout of tariffs weigh on forecasters, according to projections released Monday. The new forecasts preview what was already expected to be a need for another round of budget cuts. They also project a gap in state tax refunds due to a drop in tax revenue and a relatively high risk of a recession over the next year, unquote.
These are like the people whose job these are not partisans. These are not, they don't work for Democrats. They work for the legislature as a body. It is their job to accurately predict and forecast the economy so that people can do the state budget and figure out their fiscal notes for their bills and figure out how much the state does.
They're just saying this is what the math looks like.
This is what the math looks like if all the things that we already see happening keep happening, which they will.
And meanwhile, inflation, price increases, all that is going up under President Trump because of the uncertainty and fear he's created in the economy, largely through his stupid tariff war.
The Washington Post reports from electricity to rent, monthly bills are tipping the inflation scale. Housing, healthcare, food, and utility prices are outpacing inflation and taking an outsized share of American paychecks. Am I fucking crazy, or does it seem like the reaction to all of these price increases that the media has and that the political class has is slightly different than when Joe Biden was president?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it seems that way in a lot of cases, though I do think Trump's getting a little bit more grief than he would have, particularly because people still remember that in 2024 he campaigned primarily on promising to cut costs for Americans.
Groceries. Think of it. The word
Eggs,
they used to use back in the 60s. Groceries. Who even knows what that is anymore? I will make them cheap.
Right.
It's going great.
Which leads us to Trump time.
The worst time of the day.
Although this is exactly why Trump's approval ratings are plummeting. And even Republicans are sick of this shit. This is a great poll from AP Norc that came out recently. Republicans' outlook on America and the Trump administration has soured significantly. 30% of Republicans under the age of 45 have moved since June
And
towards
this
saying,
is in the midst of Trump's overall approval ratings being historically low. 60% disapprove, only 39% approve. When you go by party, of course, Democrats, 91% disapprove, 8% approve. I want to know who the fuck those 8% are. Independents, 73% disapprove, 25% only, 25% approve. And even among Republicans, 20%, that is 1 out of 5 Republicans, disapprove of the job this guy is doing. When you go by age, it is even more stark. 18 to 44-year-olds, 61 to 38 disapprove, approve, 45 and over, 60-40. Where's this guy's base at this point?
it's just the hardcore MAGA people are left.
That's it.
President Trump was in New York recently and delivering a bizarro speech to the United
Nations. Like, my God.
Yes. He complained about all sorts of things. Yeah, he had grievances about an escalator being stopped, a teleprompter not working, sound system maybe being quiet. The escalator and the teleprompter, by the way, it's been reported that both of those were actually the fault of White House staff. And here's a brief clip from that speech about cows that, good luck figuring this out.
By the way, it's nonsense. You know, it's interesting. In the United States, we have still radicalized environmentalists, and they want the factories to stop. Everything should stop. No more cows. We don't want cows anymore. I guess they want to kill all the cows. They want to do things that are just unbelievable. And you have it too. But, you know, we have a...
How is it that... So the radical environmentalists want to kill all the cows. I think the radical environmentalists don't want to kill all the cows.
You know, what I always picture in my head when I hear him doing this kind of thing is you've got all these world leaders in the United Nations and they've got the headphones up to their head because they have translators explaining it to them. And I'm sure there are multiple instances, including at this point, where they're hearing the translator tell them he's talking about cows and they've got to be like, wait, what?
Are you sure?
Is that right?
Run it back. We might need a new translator. He can't possibly be saying what he's saying. Yeah, that's a good point.
No, he is.
Yeah. Unfucking believable.
Trump is also now prosecuting his enemies, but for real, maybe we should call this segment Before the Gulag.
Right.
At a memorial service recently for Barley Dirk, we're not going to say his name because then we can't get in trouble. Trump really just flat out said he hates you.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
Normal.
So if you're one of the 60% of Americans who disapprove of President Trump in office, he hates you.
It's good. It's a very normal thing for a president
to
say.
Very normal. President Trump
the old guy, man. He was really fine.
Yeah, he was. Trump has apparently figured out a way to indict former FBI Director James Comey. Here's ABC News.
Yeah, this is pretty scary stuff.
Heard President Trump say former FBI Director James Comey got caught lying, but Comey says he's innocent after his 2-count indictment by a federal grand jury. He's charged with making a false statement and obstruction related to his testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2020. And this comes just days after President Trump publicly demanded the Justice Department prosecute Comey and other political enemies. Now Comey's denying those allegations in a video post.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way.
Good for him.
We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
And we can't finish up this episode without talking about Jimmy Kimmel, who was taken off the air for about a week before Disney folded and put him back on his late night, is it Late Night with Kimmel, Tonight with Kimmel? I get them all mixed up.
I think it's called Jimmy Kimmel Live.
That's right, Jimmy Kimmel Live. And Kimmel in his return, I think, also qualifies for our That's Bullshit segment. Here he is in his monologue, really kind of taking on the reasons for why he was pulled off the air.
When they make things about them. But I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with comedians and talk show hosts from countries like Russia, countries in the Middle East, who tell me they would get thrown in prison for making fun of those in power, and worse than being thrown in prison. They know how lucky we are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Stephen off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous. I want you to think about this. Should the government be allowed to regulate which podcasts the cell phone companies and Wi-Fi providers are allowed to let you download to make sure they serve the public interest? You think that sounds crazy? No! 10 years ago, this sounded crazy. Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, telling an American company, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and that these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. In addition to being a direct violation of the First Amendment, is not a particularly intelligent threat to make in public. Ted Cruz said he sounded like a mafioso. Although, I don't know, if you want to hear a mob boss make a threat like that, you have to hide a microphone in a deli and park outside in a van with a tape recorder all night long. This genius said it on a podcast. Brendan Carr is the most embarrassing car Republicans have embraced since this one.
It's a cyber truck, listeners.
The FCC has a tradition of meddling where they shouldn't under many administrations, but it wasn't always like this. There was an FCC commissioner back in 2022 who worked under Joe Biden, who was spot on. He wrote, President Biden is right. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship. You know who wrote that? FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr, who later was appointed chairman of the FCC by this former crusader for free speech.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down.
That was also in 2022. And I wonder, how did that guy turn into this guy?
Who would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
lot of people, anybody could replace him. Guy had no talent. Kimmel look, he was fired. He had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent. And more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get ratings. But he had no ratings.
Well, I do tonight.
It's a great way to.
I mean,
Great
it
way to
is a
conclude.
little weird that, like, the dude from The Man Show and Win Ben Stein's money is
Yeah.
now, like, the avatar of free speech against an authoritarian dictatorship. That is weird shit, man.
It is. But it's also weird that Texas Senator Ted Cruz is on the same side. Kimmel mentioned that in his monologue. Here's what Cruz said on a podcast this month.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, "Nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it."
Oh,
so
God,
again,
the
I like
accent
Brendan
is
Carr.
so fucking bad.
We should not be in this business. We should denounce it. It's fine to say what Jimmy Kimmel said was deplorable. It was disgraceful, and he should be off air, but we shouldn't be threatening government power to force him off air. That's a real mistake.
Oh, God, I hate it here. Fucking
Yeah,
agreeing.
but
with
you
Ted
know, at
Cruz.
least there are some Republicans who can still speak up. Whether or not they'll stand by it, it's hard to know. But you know, they're saying it. What this is really about, there's been a lot of attention about free speech. We've been talking about Nexstar trying to buy Tegna, which would then likely mean the end of 9 News, the top performing newscast in the Denver market for more than 40 years. That's really what this is more about. It's getting more coverage for that. I saw a big text thread from Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy. This is about consolidating media, finding a reason to do that, and getting rid of voices that are critical of Republicans.
It's right out of the Turkey, Hungary, authoritarian Putin playbook. It's the same shit they do everywhere. They silence dissent. They make it illegal to criticize them, or they just instill fear and a chilling effect over everybody so that nobody wants to criticize them. And then the message never gets out. They're able to rule for as long as they want to while stealing everything that isn't nailed down and lying in their pockets and making things more expensive for everybody else. So these things actually have like material consequences. It's not just like, oh, they're taking my favorite comedian Jimmy Kimmel off the air. It's
Right.
what he said in his monologue, which is that the thing that people still envy about this country, and there's a lot less to envy these days, is that you actually do have freedom of speech.
All right, let's do a couple of quick hits and then we'll get out of here. We say this all the time when it comes to allegations of election fraud, and it's always true. It's always a Republican.
And if anybody has evidence that Democrats are out there rigging elections or trying to steal them, present it to us, and we will cover that too.
We'll absolutely do it because it just doesn't happen. Congressman Kevin Kiley, a Republican from California, was talking recently about somebody who, like a dog that got a ballot in the mail and the owner tried to vote or something in California. As additional reporting uncovered, the woman using her dog to vote twice is registered as a Republican.
Because it's always a Republican.
Always.
It is just revealed that a dog successfully voted in a recent election in California. The dog received a ballot in the mail and successfully cast that ballot. And indeed, even after the dog died, continued to receive a ballot in the mail. Now, the owner has now been charged by the Orange County District Attorney's Office for illegally registering her dog to vote, but she probably would have got away with it if she hadn't posted a photo of her dog on social media wearing an I voted sticker.
Now that's like almost funny, but is he just making the argument that the law absolutely worked out as intended and the
that's what I always think too. Like whenever they're like, "Oh, someone got caught," yeah, because it works.
Yeah, fucking. What's your point, man?
Right. There's another primary challenge in a high-profile race. CU Regent Wanda James is running against Democrat Diana DeGette in Denver's 1st Congressional District. She is not the first in this race to challenge DeGette. I don't see any way that she ends up winning. The thing that really struck me was the statement that James put out in announcing her candidacy. She said she intends to prioritize expanding access to affordable health care, supporting small businesses, ensuring quality education, and tackling the rising cost of living. None of those things are different than what Diana DeGette is doing.
Yeah, and as we often say, in primaries especially, but against any incumbent, you have to make the case to fire before you can make the case to hire. And if the case you're making to fire is, I'm a different person who will do all the same things, it's not that compelling. Look, I happen to like Wanda a lot. I've known her for a long time. I think she's great. This is not probably going to work out. And it's because, quite frankly, there is no objective case to fire. This is the problem.
Right. Representative Scott, there is no bottoms. You've heard us use that moniker over the years. Well, he's trying to give away our creation. Here he is at the Truth and Liberty Conference, whatever that is.
I vote no 99% of the time. Kyle Clark calls me Scott No Bottoms. Don't ever listen to anything that man says. So here's the problem that we have. Not whether we have the money or not. We have the money.
Does Kyle Clark call him that, or do we call him that?
We do. I don't think. I don't. Maybe Kyle Clark does. I don't know. But that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. At least it broke through for him. Congressman Gabe Evans of the 8th Congressional District, the most vulnerable Republican incumbent in the country, made The Onion recently, and it was pretty spot on. The headline says, freshman congressman being adorably discreet with corruption. My favorite line is at the very end where it says, quote, Evans' colleagues were later seen stifling giggles after they learned the congressman had just agreed to attend a town hall packed with his concerned constituents, unquote.
Which is, if you didn't get the satire from the get-go, would have shown you that this is absolutely not a real article.
No, but the joke is, they say there's a little bit of truth in every good joke. There's a lot of truth in that one.
Yeah.
And finally, our gibberish of the week. Here's Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett, who loves him some conspiracy theories, even if he can't really explain them.
These are entities that are here on this earth, that have been on this earth, that who knows how long. And that we think they're coming in from way out. Maybe they did millennia ago, but they're here and they're in these deep water areas. And that's why, like we say, we know more about the face of the moon than we do what's going on there. Now, we have a higher propensity of sightings around these 5 or 6, I believe, deep water areas. And so to me, it just it creates a question there. And then when we have naval personnel telling me that we have these sightings and that there's these underwater craft they're chasing that are doing hundreds of miles an hour, and the best we've got is something that does maybe just a little under 40 miles an hour. So I got a lot of questions about that stuff. And what if
Jesus Christ.
So we're talking about the fish aliens again? Is that what he's talking about?
This is a member of Congress. This is one out of 436 people that are supposed to be making our laws. This is bad news, y'all.
I remember Lauren Boebert brought this up years ago.
Underwater aliens?
Yeah, it might have been a year ago. Yeah, they're, I don't know, like Aquaman is down. Come on, man. You get a different job. Get rid of this guy, please, Tennessee people. All right, that's it for us this week.
The Get More Smarter podcast is a production of ColoradoPolls.com and the Big Horn Company. Our hosts are me, Ian Silveri, and America's dad,
Jason Bain,
who managed to figure out how to engineer and produce this thing. Megan does the video. I do the Substack and other stuff. We all do a lot of stuff around here. Breakmaster Cylinder made the theme song. Get your shots while you still can. Protect your trans kids, your autistic kids, your immigrant kids, your Tylenol, and any other kids in your life. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you got more smarter. It helps a lot. Come battle the trolls in our YouTube comment section and find us at getmoresmarter.com, where you can sign up for bonus content in that Substack that I write. Please send all angry and non-angry rants to angryrants at getmoresmarter.com. Other stuff to Ian at getmoresmarter.com, and other stuff to Jason at getmoresmarter.com. Thank you so much to retired Rear Admiral Eileen Laubacher for being our guest today. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.